Thank you for coming on my podcast today. I had such a blast on yours. I guess real quick, if you can just introduce yourself, tell people your name and where they can find you online.
Absolutely. My name is Aurora. My business is String and Hearts Macrame. My website is stringandhearts.com. I named it after my favorite succulent, String of Hearts.
Oh, yes, which I cannot keep
Yeah.
alive. Thank you very much.
I'm struggling too, actually. But yeah, I do macrame. I've been a macrame artist since 2010. And I also manage two BIPOC repost pages, which are BIPOC macrame and Black fiber artists. And they're just nonprofit support pages for people in the fiber art world.
Awesome. I love that you're doing that. And I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that after we get into your story, because I'd love to know just your background and how you sort of found macrame in your life or fiber art and how did that all come about?
Yeah, well, I guess for starters, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I say Atlanta, I'm from the suburbs, just north, about 30 minutes north of the city. And I am one of five children. I'm the fourth one. And so what ultimately catapulted me to macrame was my love for languages, because I grew up just really wanting to communicate with people. And I saw language as the ultimate barrier. If I could learn languages, then I can talk to just about anybody, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to school for language. And as soon as I could, I started traveling. When I was in college, I taught French, or I'm sorry, I went and taught English. Excuse me. My degree was in French literature, but I taught English in France for about 7 months. And that really I fell in love with traveling. And so when I finished college, I went to Georgia State University in Atlanta. And when I finished college, I decided to go backpacking through Central and South America. And right away when I got there, it was like I fell in love with just a tropical, laid-back environment and much, much easier lifestyle, if you will. And so I didn't want to just be a tourist. I didn't want to just go shopping, museums, that sort of thing. I really wanted to connect with the culture and immerse myself. And then that way have more access to the language. I would be able to improve my language skills. And
did you speak Spanish? You spoke both French and Spanish then?
I spoke a good bit of Spanish. I wouldn't say I was fluent, but I had studied it for a little bit in college and traveled to Mexico a couple other times. So conversationally, I got by.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you probably have the kind of ear where you pick up languages pretty quickly. Did you grow up in a bilingual household at all?
My mom spoke a little bit of Spanish. She had a love for it, but nobody was fluent in my family. I was the first one to really. Being the fourth, all my older siblings, they came into the language studies, and I would always go steal their books and just like browse through it. I was really passionate about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I really wanted to learn Spanish to a fluency level, and so I just started connecting with the locals. And everywhere I went, there was the artesano community, so the artisans, right? And they're the artists. They're just out there. Public space is different in a lot of these countries. It's not 100% legal to just be out there vending without a license or a permit. But in a lot of the touristy spots, they allow it because it brings an economy to the place no matter what. So they'll maybe have sweeps every now and then of like the enforcement, like to try and shoo people from sitting out and vending for too long, but a lot of these places, they'll sell you a permit for cheap as well. And so there's a lot of artists that are just out there. And so I connected with a lot of these individuals, and I saw macrame, and I just was like, oh my God, they're painting with string and jewelry, macrame jewelry. It's like every single color, under the rainbow and the string. And so I fell in love with it right away. And I met a girl from Canada. She had lived in Brazil for like 4 years. And we were just hanging out, and she was like, if you want, I'll teach you some. And so she taught me.
That's so cool. So while you were there, you learned.
Yeah, while I was there, this trip overall was about 11 months.
Okay.
And I started in Costa Rica, and by the end of it, I wound up in the Amazons in Colombia. I was there for 2 months, and this trip included illegal border crossings. I was illegal in Ecuador for about 2 months. I met a girl and she taught me Spanish and macrame, and we were in love for a little while. It was very adventurous. My Spanish, needless to say, got really good by the end of it.
I bet.
And then I also had reached a level with macrame where I could pick up a stone, I could wrap the stone and make it into a necklace, into a bracelet, or whatever my mind. I had learned enough at that point that I could start creating my own designs.
Okay. Do you remember what country you were in when you, I guess first when when your interest really started, like when your interest peaked the most, where you wanted to learn? Like, do you remember what country you were going through at the time? It's probably a whirlwind, like hard to remember.
Yeah. But I would say it was at the very beginning in Costa Rica. Okay. Because every place, it was like a game for me. Everywhere I went, I'd be like, where are the artesanos? Like, what am I going to learn this time? And I would go and I'd see their parche, or their like board of all their different designs that they had. And I'd look and I'd be like, okay, they're doing really cool stuff. And then we'd hang out for a little bit, and then I'd get the courage and say, would you mind teaching me something?
Cool.
And it wasn't immediately. I wasn't just like, teach me. It was like, because I was there for a week or two, I would see a lot of the same people, and we'd go drinking or we'd hang out on the beach, And so I was making community in each place I went, and the average was about 1 to 3 weeks I was in each place. And I went Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, back to Colombia. And then when I came back, I had like learned the basics of doing jewelry, a lot of the bracelet patterns and whatnot, and wrapping stones. And when I came back to the US, I met a lot of people prior to leaving that were in like the hippie festival community.
And is this in Georgia, or is this somewhere else?
This is back in Georgia.
Okay.
This is back in Georgia at this time, back in Atlanta. And also a lot of them were like, you could go to music festivals and just take your jewelry and sell it, and it's tax-free. You're just walking through the campgrounds vending. Yeah. That's a great idea. So from being a traveler in South America and just learning it, I then went to, I don't know if you can hear my son. He's thrashing. Okay. Got his toy cars up in his high chair. I transferred from traveling to doing festivals and vending there. I was mostly doing a lot of earrings because they were smaller and like easy sales, but I started doing hair wraps as well.
Nice.
Yeah. And people love them. I mean, I still run into people today that are like, oh my God, I still have this hair wrap that you did for me. I had to cut it out of my hair because once I put them in, they were permanent.
They're in. Yeah.
They're in. And so I had so many people like years afterwards, like, oh my God, I still have this crystal, this hair wrap. Da, da, da. So that was a really special part of my journey, being able to connect with people. And every time I would sit with someone to do their hair, we'd always get to know each other and chat, and just like, I don't know, it felt like it was very much of a spiritual journey. And before I go any further, I have to say, part of what propelled me to go to Latin America was, on the one hand, languages and traveling, but on another hand, I was raised in pretty much a cult, like a Christian religious cult.
Mm-hmm.
It was non-denominational.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, there's always going to be good people everywhere, right? And so I'm still in touch with a lot of people that I know from that community. However, just like how things went, it didn't harmonize with me after a certain point in my life. I started coming into myself, and I felt it wasn't inclusive enough for my beliefs.
Yeah.
And so
I've gone through the same thing, so I totally understand.
Yeah. So from that point, that was like post college. And so when I went on this trip, it was very much like a spiritual journey for me. Mm-hmm. I'd heard people talk about ayahuasca and plant medicine, and like, oh, you go on a find yourself journey. Go to
you were an early adopter, I have to say, because now it's all about ayahuasca and that kind of thing. Like, that's all I'm hearing nowadays when I listen to podcasts and stuff. And it's made me really want to try it, like something I would want to do, maybe like with my husband. But he is a complete, like, he's super square. He's the squarest person I know. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he would ever manage doing something like that. But it sounds like just a really sort of healing, wonderful thing. Have you tried it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it multiple times in different settings, by myself with one other person, in ceremony with a group, with the music and everything. And I would say by far, with the music, with the drumming and the rhythm, and somebody that they're basically taking you into like a dream state, right? And so if it's too loose of an environment, there's too many distractions, it's hard to get into that headspace. And then they also recommend like changing your diet a little bit before, and that just helps to like, because most people purge and have a really throwing up process, and that's to like release things that no longer serve you. And so if you have heavy things in your digestive tract, I ate kale, and you think, okay,
that's not heavy,
and
really?
No, it
not
was
good
too
coming up.
fibrous. Oh my God, it was so rough coming up. I was like, no.
Oh God.
Okay, no dark leafy greens. Yeah, so, TMI, but yeah. So I went on this journey, and it was very much like a spiritual journey. I just wanted to find a new understanding of truth and love and the universe, and a new belief system or way of believing that like really resonated with where I was going. And so
before you took your trip, did you go on a mission to do that, or was it just by happenstance that while you were there you met the right people? And
I very much went on a journey. I'd actually had a vision of meeting someone, and I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what his purpose was going to be. And I was into this guy. at the time, those young men who just want to have fun and not take responsibility, whatever. Let my feelings get caught up in the wrong way. And that propelled me into a period of celibacy as well. So it was like very much like, okay, I got to get my head straight. But before going, I talked to his mom, because she was the first person that I knew that was in touch with like spirituality, like energy and like energy work and that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, I'm coming from religion, and like my parents only understand this much. So maybe talking to someone else would give me insight. And she out of the blue was like, be careful in Ecuador. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to Ecuador. And she's like, my guides keep telling me, be careful in Ecuador. When I was in Costa Rica, would you believe, within like 3 weeks of being there, I met this guy, and we were like smoking joints.
Yeah.
I was working at a bar on a restaurant on the beach. And out of the blue, he's like, do you want to go to Ecuador with me? And I was just like, the ghost of me just like jumped out of my body. Like, this shit is real. Excuse me. This is real.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm being led on a journey here. And so I was following spiritual breadcrumbs the whole way of like, okay, like what am I meant to learn in this circumstance?
Right. Life presents it. It's really quite beautiful in that way. As long as you have your eyes open and your heart open, and you're like to receive certain signs, they kind of just happen, don't they? It's so
they
weird.
do. It's so special. Every now and then I'm like, I miss that.
I know. Because now with motherhood, I mean, it's kind of hard to have that openness anymore. I don't know about you.
It's hard.
Lifestyle matters.
It is hard.
Yeah.
We're so spread out. It takes a certain energy and a mindset to be able to access that. And we went camping this past week, and it was, I think I got it back. But anyways, so this trip was very much so me following spiritual breadcrumbs, listening to the universe, and like seeing these new lessons and these new ways of understanding life. And so everyone I met, every single turn I took, I really feel was divinely guided.
Yeah.
And so I met this guy in Ecuador. He actually found me once I stopped looking. I had searched all over the country, from the Amazons to the mountains to the coast and all around. And I finally came back to this little city in the Amazons, and I'd stopped looking, and he found me. And it's been a while since I've told this story.
I love it.
And so he turned out to be a Haitian witch doctor, and he, after a couple days of him reading me and like seeing what my vibe was, and like he like invited me to have a drink with him, and I told him that I had had a vision of him, and he told me he'd had a vision of me. And then he like blessed me, and like I don't know, maybe like initiated me as like a priestess. And And so that's just been my path ever since.
Oh, wow.
Is yeah, just listening to spirit and bringing that to everyone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how beautiful. And how did you two meet? Like it was just like was this on the beach you were saying?
No, it was in the Amazons.
Oh, when you were in
And
the okay.
yeah, and I was out vending, and I was with the Colombian girl that I was seeing,
Oh,
and
so
there was
you
a
were
bunch
still
of
you were selling stuff at the like
I
while
was
you were traveling. Oh, okay.
I was learning how to make things,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd have like a sleeve of bracelets or like just minimal, right? Anytime I'd make something, I would still have it out there. I was not making a lot of money because I was just in my first few months of doing it, but I would make a few sales every now and then. And because of just the economic difference there, I was able to get by with like $100 a month. You
Wow.
know, it wasn't hard to
Damn.
be, yeah, it wasn't that hard at the time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I was out there vending one day, and he came. It was right around like the earthquakes in Haiti.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that. There was some
Yeah.
earthquakes
Yeah.
down there. And traveling as an American, I got a lot of discrimination because American, they just saw us as like, oh, you guys are just like exuberant wealth and like
Mm-hmm.
don't appreciate like the hardworking cultures and all that. And so I got to a point where I was lying to people about where I was from because I didn't want that discrimination.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't living the typical American dream. I was trying to create something different. And so I started telling people I was from Haiti, not realizing that the guy I was going to meet was from Haiti as well.
Oh God.
I started telling people I was from Haiti, and I was in this town, and I was there for like 3 weeks, just like, okay, where do I go from here? I don't know what to do. I searched everywhere. And I was going to this coffee shop in the morning, and they were really nice family. So I was like, this is going to be my morning spot. And this guy came in, and he saw me, and he was like, where are you from? And I said, oh, it's from Haiti. He's like, oh, you speak French? I was like, oh yeah, I speak French. And then he started asking too many questions, like, oh really? You're from Haiti? What's the currency in Haiti? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh no.
He got me, but he was just
Oh
feeling
no.
me out because he actually had this friend who was from Haiti. And so within a couple days, this guy came in and he was like sizing me up, and he was like, oh, really? Okay. And he's like, started talking to me in French. And I was like, okay. And so then later I was like on the strip with all the artisanos selling. And the guy came by and he shook one person's hand, he shook my hand, and he didn't shake anybody else's hand. And I was like, that was a really weird interaction. Like, who is this guy? I was like, that guy who was in the the restaurant this morning. He knows I'm not Haitian. He's scoping me out. Like, what does he want with me?
Right. Like, what's his end game here?
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe I thought he was Colombian. I don't know. I thought he was something internationally wise, nationality wise. And the other guy who shook his hand, he was like, that guy's not from wherever. That guy's from da da da. He's a witch doctor. And as soon as he said that, I was like, this is the dude from my vision. Like, he found me. And I was still like, hesitant. Like, what's going to happen? Like, is he going to like teach me herbalism? Like, I have this like in my mind, like, what does all this mean? I don't know what it means, right?
Wait, can we take a step back? When you say you had a vision of him, like how did that present itself? I'm so curious. I'm like, I might interrupt you a lot because this is like such a fascinating story.
It's okay. It was Halloween. And I was staying at this like hippie community in Atlanta, and we were having like a party, and there were psychedelics involved, and it was very much like a ceremonial. We were all sitting in a circle, and my little brother was there. It was the first time like sitting in ceremony with him, and I just remember like there was some like tribal drumming music that was playing, and so as the journey initiates, I'm like, I close my eyes and I just like I started seeing this like man like running, and like. And it was like just flashes, like, and they were in sync with the music. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I just saw his like face. It just like flashed in my face. And I was like, that was really weird. And then it did it again. And I was like, but then that was it. And I just was like, who is this person in my dream? My first thought was like, oh my God, is God black? But that was a joke. I was just like, who is this? Like, this is so random. I'm seeing some person's face in my like vision. Anyways, and so I couldn't make sense of it until all these other breadcrumbs were laid before me. Like, oh, you're going to go to Ecuador, and oh, this person is actually a witch doctor. And then when I went to have a drink, or I didn't even have a drink, they were playing pool. Right, he had a friend with them. I had another friend with them, with us, another woman, and yeah, we just sat down, and it was actually pretty quick. And then we went to go leave, and he still was like feeling me out. He was like, okay, well, if you want, we could go use all this, and we can go like take people's money, and like, like, I don't know, take advantage of all this. And I just looked at him, I was like, that's not my path, man. Like,
Yeah.
I see you test me. Like, that's not what my path is. And I have no interest in doing that. I'm still just following spirit and seeing like how I'm meant to help, what my service is, right? What my gift is. And so one of the other visions that came to me was the maiden, mother, and crone. It's like the crescent moon, the full moon, and the crescent moon, which represents the three parts of evolution, which is our maiden self, our youthful self, like young, 21, young, wild, and free, the mother self, which has service, like you have this period of like either with a business or actual family and motherhood, and it's not just women or cis women, it's anybody. We all have these three parts of personal evolution within ourselves. And so then the final crescent is wisdom and maturity, right? And so this vision just kept coming back to me throughout it all. And so now with motherhood and entering that service phase, entering that like, how can I give back? And in 2019, I really started having that like pull for like community, family, just like an intimate connection with people, with humanity. As I've been traveling for so long without my own home base, that I was like, I need to plant some roots, right?
So were you still in South and Central America at this point? Oh, so you were there for a long time.
I was in Central America for about 11 months initially. I came back in 2010 in the summer. And that's when I got into festivals, starting on the East Coast, and then little by little working my way back to the West Coast. This was 2010. And actually 2011, after a year of festivals, I moved to New York. And I was in Brooklyn for a year. And this was actually when Etsy first came out and Instagram first came out. And it was before niches were a thing, right? Before I was like, oh, I want to look up this topic, and all these hashtags will pull me into like millions of people tagging these things. And so it was before all that. So I was into Instagram for sharing all my art, but I didn't have any kind of community. And I was using Etsy, and I had a couple big hits with Etsy as far as like boutiques in New York. They were looking for small, like local artists to buy their artwork and sell them in their shops.
Oh, nice.
And so I had a couple wholesale collections through that. One was in Manhattan. One was in Marfa, Texas.
My favorite.
I love Marfa. I love it. I was super honored for that. And then another one with a friend that had a booth at festivals. He bought a whole collection from me to take around. And so
it's all jewelry at this point?
At this point, yeah, I did jewelry probably for the first 10 years solid. I think I had maybe seen some deco a little bit, but it never, because of how small a jewelry the macrame is, I could carry it all in a backpack, and I could travel with it. And it was super easy and convenient. And so I started doing the festivals and selling through the festivals, and the hair wraps and whatnot. And in about 2000 I went back to Costa Rica again. And then that was in 2013. I couldn't afford living in New York. It got too expensive. Note to everybody out there, do not move to New York to start your business. It is too expensive. Really tough.
I mean, if you're willing to have like 7 roommates and live in a 300 square foot studio, then
and if you have a business plan and you have it like, because I didn't know about like, having a business plan, and I didn't know, like, I might need another job to care for all my supplemental or all my like basis, my home and bills and all that stuff. I was just trying to do everything with my macrame, and it was working for the first like 6 months, but then it just seasonally, sometimes it's a seasonal thing, and it just like, it fell off really quickly. So I found someone to sublet my room, and I learned months later, wrong person. But I didn't learn until I was back in Central America, and I was on Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, and I get an email from my landlord telling me they're evicting my tenant.
No.
And then she committed petty fraud and called her credit.
No.
She had paid me through PayPal and called her credit card company and told them, "Oh, this person stole my money."
Oh no.
So they refunded her money, even though I had a contract and everything, but it was all there.
Right. You would have had to go through this whole document, like sending all the documentation, all that stuff. And when you're abroad, I mean, handling all that is just too much.
It was too much. And so I found somebody, luckily, to fill in for the remainder of my lease. And then I went to Costa Rica because I knew I could at least make enough money to get back to the States because there's more tourism there. And that's when I started dancing and started performing at festivals. And so this kind of took me a little bit of a tangent away from macrame for several years. I actually performed for about 7 years total, and my macrame kind of fell on the side as I just did it as I needed to, because the festivals with that, it was seasonal. I would do festivals in the summer, and then I would go trim weed in the winter.
Okay.
And so that's how I got into the marijuana industry, was through the festival circuit. Because a lot of people in California in particular, a lot of people that were doing the festivals also had farms. And so that's how I got into that industry. And I took a break from macrame, like I said, until about 2020, really, until when I had my son. And I was go dancing until I was 4 months pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
Because I knew I was going to be popping after that. Yep. I would not be able to cover it up.
You can only hide it for so long, I guess.
Yeah. So that was a very eventful winter. It was pretty much October. I got pregnant, and then was still dancing till New Year's. And then COVID happened in March.
Yep.
And so I think by that point, because I knew I was pregnant and I wasn't going to be able to go out and do work, I learned a lot about branding and all the different ways to really set up your business and do it professionally, thoroughly. And so I was saving up, and I bought the website. I had my friend, I was like, "You're going to be my graphic designer," you know? So I have slowly been putting together a team to help me pull it together. And my son was born in July of 2020, and in August, the following month, I launched my new website.
Nice. Okay, wait. Let's take a step back. What happened to the witch doctor?
He left after that, and it was pretty much.
Oh, that was it. It was just this moment. You guys had a moment.
It was just we just had a moment. He did a incantation or whatever, and then that was it. And it's been me just coming into the energy on my own, integrating it, and really figuring out what my purpose is. Nobody can tell us what our purpose is or how we're meant to help. And when it comes to shamanism, curanderas, spiritual healers, there's so many different kinds. There's not just one kind, And so
so after he sort of ordained you, you just carried that with you, sort of spiritually, and knew that there was a path.
I've carried that with me. And when it comes to if there is actually someone that I'm meant to connect with, or some type of healing that is meant to be done, the person that is on the receiving is the one that determines if the healing comes through. It's not me. I don't do it. It's only when people are ready. Only when people are asking, and some people feel it, some people can sense it, and sometimes out of the blue, people will just start coming out and talking to me about things, and they don't know why, and I don't know why either, but I just listen, and and then I listen and see if there's a message. And so, on the one hand, I was a little, I don't want to say underwhelmed, because you're never going to be ungrateful when you get a gift from God. It's thank you. But on the other hand, I was I'm so lost still.
Right. What do I do now?
Where's my teacher? Where's my guidance? And we are all our teachers, and every single soul in the universe is our teacher. Yeah. And it's that path of just being open and being willing to not only learn, but also to be of service. And takes me back to my very first vision that I had was, I saw this woman being, and she said her name was Love, and she was my mother. She said, "I've always known love, and that my purpose is to help people know what love is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that's the core of everything, just love.
Absolutely.
And so I try not to overthink it or complicate it and just see what type of love somebody needs in the moment, It's like,
Yeah. Well, I hope I can ask you, because I guess now I'm just wondering, so because you grew up in the way that you did, are you still in touch with your family?
I am. And actually that was really a wild journey. I can't say when it started happening. It was all everyone in my family was on a personal journey of their own.
Mm-hmm.
But one by one, everybody stopped going to that church, and one by one, everybody started having their own personal journey.
Your parents too? They left?
Yeah, I think my mom was still actively meeting before she passed away, and she passed in 2015. She had an aggressive, I think it was pancreatic cancer that then also, stomach, all of the organs. But we found out right around Thanksgiving, and then I went home Christmas Eve, and then she passed in January. So it was rapid.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people from the church were still there to like show, their love for the family and for her. And my dad is still very much a spiritual person. Like it just is who he is. And I know I get it from him, it passes through him, but just generationally, it expresses its way through him differently than for me, because we've lived different lives.
Yeah.
But
did they, like, knowing you were going through this journey and even like, choosing the kind of career paths that you were choosing, were they, were they disapproving at all, or was it, because, I don't know about the kind of Christianity you were born into, but like mine would not be okay with that. I think I would have been hiding my entire life from my parents.
Yeah.
I
would say that a lot of the people that I knew in that group, they disconnected from me because my reality and my truth that I was coming into posed a threat to their reality.
Yeah. That's what I would, yeah.
And so my reality posed a threat to theirs. And so I can see both sides, and it's okay. I'm not mad at them for choosing it. Like if they want their peace, like I respect them for taking that space.
Was it hard for you? Was it hard for you, or did you feel so like confident and honest that it was easy? Because I just wonder, I think when you do come into your truth, I think it tends oftentimes to be very easy, but also, there are conflicts and.
Oh yeah, so I definitely. And when I initially was like, I think I'm gonna leave, the inner pull just of like what you're told growing up, like this is how the world operates. If you do this, it's bad. Like just living with that for so long, I had to push through that, and really just knowing that I was going forth from love. I'm like, this is just my heart, and I want to love, and my love's not big enough, and I just wanted to grow. I was like, this sounds really pure of intention. But I would always have to give myself pep talks. Yeah. The first couple of years, I needed those pep talks to really like tell myself it was okay,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that come from kind of like such a defined reality, they may realize it's too confining and they want to try and step out into something a little more open and accepting. And so if we're looking at the spectrum, it's like there's the defined religion, there's atheism, which is like the other end of the spectrum, and there's, all these other ones. And so I think for some people coming from the defined religion, it's intimidating to step into this unknown space where nothing is defined. And so people either they're out there for a little bit of like, oh, I don't have that anymore, but they haven't reestablished any kind of like grounding anchor for themselves, right? And so a lot of people either get intimidated by that and go back, or find a new way to like harness that like spirituality for themselves. I think it's healthy. I think it's necessary, and it's healthy, even if it's a meditation, even if it's you go on your daily walks, or you have your weekly phone sesh, or I think it's healthy to have something that anchors that spirituality. And like, because in these times we're living in, there's a lot of energy, a lot of ideas and thoughts and things being thrown around. If we don't have our intentions set, it's easy to be lost and say, well, who am I? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But as simple as having our intention and saying, this is where I'm going, this is where my heart's at, we can always check back to that. And it's always a grounding sense. It's always like a empowering sense. Like, yeah, I am doing this out of love. Like, okay, And so I think Yeah, I think it's important to have that. And that being said, my sister, I don't know if you've ever heard of Landmark Forum, Landmark Education.
Actually, in New York, I had a friend who went through it with his girlfriend at the time, and then they had to call us, and we're trying to get us into it and all this stuff. So,
my sister was doing that for a while, and I was like, "That's interesting." Went from this to that. I see the similarities.
Yeah. Just a little parallel shift,
But she was like really good at it, and she actually worked her way up to the manager of the whole Atlanta facility.
Wow.
And she was really good at it.
She must be very charismatic.
She is. She's very charismatic. Her nickname is Sunshine.
Well,
but
makes sense.
But so she was working there right around when my mom passed, and so she invited my dad. She said, "Dad, you come check this out." And not everybody is going to go down to the Amazons and take some ayahuasca and have a spiritual journey that way. But I will tell you that corporate setting for my dad was really helpful for him. And he's like taking his third wind. He's so youthful, but he's like 76. But he's got this youthful spirit about him now. And I think it was because in that moment of like this crossroads of losing his partner of 30 years, he was able to go back into spirituality and like really just like find a new way to provide a service, to offer teaching or offer his wisdom to the next generations. And so neither of them, my sister during COVID, the whole center got laid off. And so my sister's doing other things now. And my dad's doing landscaping. He's been doing that since my oldest brothers are in high school. So going on 20 years.
Okay.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting with Landmark because I think that like the philosophies and the sort of core of it, I think is really helpful. I mean, it's like it's therapy basically. I think the part that I shy away from is that you're constantly forced to bring more new people in and pay for, it just when the money gets wrapped up in it's like
yeah. I was like, you can't take notes. What do you mean you can't take notes? There are some weird rules, right? It's like, okay, all right, I don't have the money for this, but I'm super curious about life in general, so it works.
Totally. No, you seem like you must have from probably an early age had this thing about you. Like I feel like there are certain personalities that are so good at like what you did was like to go travel alone and you're like a very inviting spirit. And so I can totally see how you went on the journey you went on. Like you have this, like, it's the same charisma thing your sister probably has, where like, I don't know, I think you're really easy to talk to. And even when I did your podcast, the Nanny Mama podcast, like I was just like, oh, I can just talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I feel like you're doing all the kinds of things you were meant for. And speaking of, because you're talking about, wanting to be more of service and things like that. So starting the BIPOC Macrame page and the Black Fiber Artist page, how has that been for you? And like what, I guess like it's so weird. I'm going to come off really stupid, I think, and in terms of these kinds of issues, because it's hard for me, like as a person of color, because I'm Asian, but not knowing quite where I fit in the conversation. Like even things like I was checking out the Black Fiber Artist profile, and it's like BIPOC and BBIMP now that we now have to change our acronyms now. And I don't know. I feel like I have questions. Like I just don't like know where to even start.
If it's anything, I've also come into a lot of this myself. I didn't know what BBIMP was. There's a couple other BIPOC fiber pages that are out there, and I've just seen what they're doing. And as a way to kind of like link the communities, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use both of these acronyms. Some people understand these, some people understand those. BBIMP is Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Melanated people. And I think, I'm not speaking off facts or anything, I think it's because the people of color, colored people, I think that maybe triggers some people in a negative way. So people of color. Because of
the phrase colored people. Yeah. Right, which makes sense. Exactly. I always thought that was kind of weird too. Like, I'm like, well, you're just changing the phrase around a little bit. How is one thing okay and the other thing is not?
Yeah, right.
And we get into the semantic stew that also seems kind of insurmountable, like when it comes to just like the way we word things. And, it's hard because then you want to be careful, but then it becomes...
mechanical.
and it prevents you from actually opening up because everyone's afraid of using the wrong words and things like that, you know, and intent gets lost. And I mean, and now it's melanated people. So like, are Asian people melanated?
I know.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, I have to ask. So. I really honestly don't know.
I think so.
I guess I consider myself a person of color, but then it's like, because I'm not.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, and hence why I have both, because I was like, some people are going to identify with this more and some people will identify with that more, and ultimately my intentions, going back to it, is just to create a platform of support.
Yes.
Because when I was, like I said before, when I first got into Instagram, I didn't know about the fiber art communities, and now I do. And so as I was getting into it, I was like, oh, wow. Like, oh my God, there's another wet girl, or, oh my God, there's like another person, you know? Yeah. And so I started getting excited seeing people that were like me doing it. And I was like, I wonder if there's others, you know? And I was like, saw it as a way to bring the community together and bring us all together. And it's nonprofit. Both of the pages, I think, are just, they're meant to spotlight people. Yeah. When I first got into macrame jewelry, there were so many people that didn't even have access to smartphones, let alone like a steady internet service to be able to upload photos and videos. And so I was like, it would be nice to give back to these communities that taught me, they taught me everything. And like, so this was always like an idea of mine to be able to spotlight people that they don't have the best technology, or they don't have, you know, but there's some phenomenal macrame work out there. And like Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, like all these South American countries, oh my gosh, they're so talented. And so I really wanted to be able to give back to a lot of these communities that you wouldn't consider like modern or westernized places. And so
I have noticed some of the most like beautiful, innovative work is coming out of like Spanish speaking countries, or I guess, or Portuguese. So Central South America or Europe, you know? Yeah. It's so awesome. What you're doing.
Yeah. I thought it would just be a great way to create that community, and like I had reached out to a couple of friends of mine, asking like, do you guys do, you know, shout outs? They have significant platforms. Do you guys do shout outs in exchange for art, or, you know, would you be open to it? And a couple people said yes, but then the effort that was made was like, it was like, oh my goodness, I just gave you my art, and this is like, that's the value in it.
Exactly.
Like, okay, I'm grateful, but like, I can't live like this. And so I was like, you know what? We should have our own platform.
Smart thinking.
we should have our own space to just like, you know, give each other shout outs from, you know.
Absolutely.
And I love when people reach out if they've got like a release that's happening, or if they've got a project that it means a lot to them. They put a lot of work into it. One of the fiber artists, she works with a battered women's shelter, and so she has like workshops there, and wanted me to help me announce it to see getting more people to come.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I love collaborating with people like that on small projects that they're working on, you know, to really, I want to give people a boost. You know, I'll give you a boost whenever, but it really helps if you've got something going on too. Like, let's work together, let's collaborate on a post. And I think the community appreciates it a lot too, to like know what's happening, and
for sure,
and that sort of thing. So so those pages are both just support pages. The Naughty Mamas I started because I'm a new mom, and I'm a new mom in COVID and don't have mom friends. So I thought it would be a great way to meet other moms and just, you know, talk about our art, talk about what we do, and, you know, about the craziness of our kids and all the struggles. And
yeah, you know, it's awesome that you started that. I mean, I honestly, like, it was so cool being on the other end of like the interviewing part, because I don't often get to do that. And like, it was just, it's like so nice to be able to talk about stories that focus around motherhood and making, and like well, I mean, even like telling the birth story and things like that. I was like, oh, that's the first time I've like publicly talked about that, which is so nice.
That's awesome.
That you're giving people like the opportunity to talk about, you know, all things about motherhood. And speaking of, like, once you had your baby, so it was about 15 months ago, or
almost 16. Okay. On the 10th it'll be 16 months.
So, are you finding well, I guess first, how are you finding motherhood? Have you like come into it very naturally, or was it hard? Did you have any postpartum?
I did have some postpartum. And it was things that I was already like processing before, my first trimester was so hormonal. Like it brought up a lot. Just that like deep yearning for community and like tribe and like connection with people. I live in Humboldt and it's like there's 100,000 people in the whole county and I don't even know my neighbors, so and not we're literally in downtown, this small city, but it's just like people are very private and they just do their own thing.
Yeah.
And I don't have a job out in the town to go meet people, and before when I was go-go dancing, it was a lot of the younger community, like the early 20 something. I love them all. Don't get me wrong, but I'm in a different place in my life right now to where I need people that are like either where I'm at or like going to help me keep improving.
Right. And well, like what's Humboldt like? Like, so I'll tell you my thing with being a mom and then coming into a new community, because we moved here 4 years ago, and I was like, for me, it's like everything and all the people I've met, it's all has to do with my kids. So it's like it's their classmates' parents and things like that, and we don't always like really like each other that much. I mean, we're all fine and we're friendly, but I would say that it's not like
we're like besties or
no, and like it's kind of hard to talk to them because I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. I'm like, maybe I'm just really bad. Like, maybe I have no interpersonal skills. Like, I don't know what it is. But it's like all we do is like talk about our kids and then their teachers and the school system or sports. Like I see them at sports things, right? Like sports practices and games and stuff like that. And it just feels all very like mundane and boring and bullshitty. And I'm just like, kill me. But
it's all the common stuff. It's like, I see that we're all playing soccer together.
And and it's like not. I don't know. Maybe it's the community. I'm not trying to shit on my community. Everyone's great. Everyone's friendly and nice. No, but it's like when it comes to like finding just like the like-minded, artistic, creative, like maybe sort of different, like alternative type of person. I don't find many people like that here. So I wonder, is Humboldt like are there people who are open-minded and
there like I'm about 30 minutes away from this town called Arcata, and in Arcata it's very progressive, very open-minded, sometimes too much but there's a little bit of everything. On the other side there's like very conservative, like they're doing Trump rallies left and right up and down the streets, you know what I'm saying? So you have the University Center, HSU, Humboldt State, and they're very into like biology and earth sciences. And Paul Stamets, he's like this ingenuitive guy with mushrooms and cool. Like medicinal mushroom cultures. Like he's from this Pacific Northwest, and so he comes down here sometimes and will teach lectures at the university. So there's a lot of like very open-minded and progressive people living here, and like I said, then the other extreme of more conservative, old I could say old money, but it's more so just the old way of thinking with like conservative, right? Like land ownership and like you can do what you want on your land.
That's kind of where I am. Like where the people who live around me are. Like it's a red county. There are a lot of farms, and there's still Trump signs everywhere, like 2024, whatever. Let's go Brandon bullshit. I'm just like, yeah. But yeah. There's a little bit of that here, and it was so funny. I was at a gathering for Halloween, and I was like, I'm just excited to move back to Georgia because Atlanta is very progressive. Oh, you're moving back?
We're planning. We're planning on moving back just because we got the first grandbaby on both sides. My partner's family is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh, okay, so they're also from the South.
We're all in the South, and so I have a lot of friends from college that have kids now, and I get to see them all the time on Instagram with their kids, like play dates, and we're excited to move back and like get him in on all that fun, and so we know
you don't have to force any Humboldt friendships.
I don't have to force it. I know that if I'm patient enough and really just do the work now, like there's community that's always been there, that will always be there, and I'm looking forward to reuniting with them. We're just getting through some headway right now. Mark and I met on a farm in Oregon in 2017, and we were both celibate at the time. I left out that boy that broke my heart launched me into a 7-year period of celibacy.
7 years? When you say celibate, does that mean also like no masturbating?
No, No, I did.
Okay. I was like, oh my God, what does your body do at that point?
I know you have to do something.
Yeah.
You have to do something. But yeah, no. So I would say I had sex twice in 7 years, and once after 5 years, and then the second time was after 2 more years after that. So it was like just me testing the waters and being like, how do I feel about this? What are my reasons for doing this again? Okay, I'm still all right.
Wait, and were those 2 times with people you trusted and knew, or was it like truly experimenting?
Once was with somebody that I trusted and knew, and then the second time, that was the second time. The first time was just with somebody in another country who was from New Caledonia, island in the French Pacific. Was like, oh, whatever, let's do it.
Nice.
I don't know. It was never about not having sex. It was more so about meeting someone that could meet me and respect me, and like, I've never been one that was like, I can't just have sex and be okay with it being the one-time thing. But I don't know.
Well, whatever you experienced with that guy.
It was enough to make me be like, I needed a break. And now when I met my partner, he had also been celibate for like 2 and some years. And so we connected on that. And we just saw we were both kind of looking for the same thing in a relationship. And we're in Oregon. He was from the South. I was from the South. We both had like more similar, I don't know, swag. Yeah. So it was very organic when we met. It took a couple years because when we met, we were living in our vehicles, working on other people's properties. And so
this is when you're cutting weed.
So we were farming and cutting or trimming, doing a little bit of everything.
I don't know the terminology. I'm like, snipping the buds, like, I don't know.
Trimming. We actually helped build the whole infrastructure. I was like driving tractors, digging trenches, like laying the electrical and the piping and all that stuff. So it was a great huge learning experience. But in the end, it was like in maybe the second or third year into legalization, and just like the fees for regulations or like getting your property regulated to be able to do it. I mean, you're paying like $250,000 a minimum. And so it's a lot of stress for the administration and the people that really manage these farms. And the payout doesn't come usually until the end of the season. So you have to have the money up front to pay for everything and basically put it into a hole and then trust that when harvest comes around that you'll be able to sell it. And so just now with legalization, on the one hand, it's great because nobody should be put behind bars for it because it is very medicinal. But when they legalize, big
so
companies,
much red tape.
The corporations, that it opened a door for corporations to come in, people with big money to be able to clean out and basically marginalize the middle class. There was a lot of mom and pop farms, like people that were just paying for their kids to go to college, and like they're just living very humble lives, but decent. And now a lot of people, if you weren't like doing really well, if you were just kind of like getting by, you can't do it anymore because it's so expensive to do that to that degree now. So
it's so hard. It's hard because you would think that legalization would be some kind of pathway to make it better for the smaller business owners or the small farms or whatever. But it just everything is corrupted. I hate to say capitalism at its finest because I daily participate in the capitalist market with my business. We all do.
My purchases, but it's just something we're going to have to learn to work through with everything. But so 2020 was the last time I worked on a pot farm. I can't do it anymore. The hormones hit and my whole outlook on life and my obligations and what I'm doing has changed. My priorities have shifted, and so now I'm just trying to do my business. I have a couple like long-term goals planned out for my business. I want to get more into macrame education, and workshops. I've been doing a lot of workshops lately here in town, and that's been fun. That's the first time I feel like I'm starting to make community here in Humboldt is with the workshops. I have people that are super excited to come, and I'm really excited to connect with people that just want to learn and hang out. And so that's been this has been a fun chapter.
Are you doing both micro macrame? Like, are you teaching jewelry also, or just
right now
like
I'm just doing the bigger stuff, but I'd like to transition, but got a couple other things that have to happen first.
Yeah. Well, because I was noticing, like, just looking at your Instagram feed and stuff, I was noticing a lot of the micro macrame that's a little bit lower into your feed, but or just like whatever in the past, but it's so beautiful. You know, that's a niche in this industry that I'm not that familiar with, and I've never even tried to really make other than like, you know, little friendship bracelets we made in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't, you know, really tried, but it's so intricate and beautiful, the kinds of things that you can do.
Yeah. I want to get back into it more. I've taken this break to get into the deco because time for size, I can do such bigger pieces with, you know, the same amount of time. The little micro macrame, you're using 1 millimeter string. It's so tiny. But yeah, it's fun. It's really beautiful and I love it. And that's mostly what my community back home knows me for, is for the jewelry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
cool. So what else what else do you want to do with your business? Where would you like to see it going in, say, 5 years?
In 5 years, I do see myself transitioning. The deco's been fun, but I feel like it is almost too saturated of a market for me to really make a name for myself. I don't have that unique of like a style, you know. I think I'm more unique in my jewelry.
Your color, I have to say, like the way you work with color is, and the types of palettes you put together is really unique, actually.
Thank you.
At least as far as what I see on my feed, and that is very limited. It's probably limited to mostly just my customers who tag me. So maybe everyone else's palette is all the same because they're using my colors. But but like when I look at the colors you put together, I mean, it's different, bold, vibrant colors that I don't often see put together. So I don't know. I think you do have a unique voice for sure.
Well, my partner does carpentry. He's not a carpenter by trade right now, but he is very passionate about it. He's got a whole wood shop in the back.
Nice.
And so he does all my shelves for me. So right now he was able to get a bunch of redwood. We have a bunch of shelves that we're working on. I've already drawn up the designs. But I want to dive more into like more furniture type decor, like functional pieces.
Yeah.
The shelves, I love them. People really like them. So I think I'm going to keep going with that.
Awesome,
and then we like working with like the exotic woods, like, you know, Purple Heart or we've got some really great lumber yards here to work with.
Cool.
I think that's, if I'm going to stick with the deco, that's more so the direction I'm heading in, is the things that I can incorporate wood with.
Yeah.
Did you see that half moon golden?
I saw
wood
that.
one
That is gorgeous.
Yeah. I really like that style. It's more modern, you know, and maybe a little bit smaller. That one was like 3 feet by.
That's why I loved it though, because it was so big. Like I think people are limited. I feel like some people who are trying to work with wood in some sense are limited in terms of size. That I think that they can either manufacture or produce or whatever. So if you're able to make large pieces, I think that's actually, it's hard for people to get a hold of that kind of stuff. So that might be one way to kind of separate yourself. Yeah. It is more, I mean, obviously it's harder for anyone buying to purchase it because it's going to be more expensive. But that's when my statement pieces, you know.
I love the big ones. I've got my plant hanger here, my big old tassel castle.
I love it.
This one, it's going on almost 1 year old since I made it. Nice. It was like my first piece after having Raiden.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I really want to do some epic chandelier type.
Yeah, like really vintage looking. But I love it. I
found a bunch of old vintage patterns on Etsy. There's people selling like old magazine books.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch.
You have to like read through the instructions, and I'm like, oh goodness.
I know, right?
I used to write these all the time. Like I'm struggling with like a basic tapestry trying to write out the instructions.
I know. And following a written pattern is hard. It's like, I just need video. I'm like, just show me.
Yeah. When I get into more tutorials and stuff like that, I'm gonna do the written and the video. For the packets that I plan to send out, I'll have the instructions and a link to the video included. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess as someone who's sort of gone through such I mean, you've had like an epic life. I'm
It's
just
been
saying,
adventurous.
it's been such an adventure, it sounds like, and
Yeah.
a real, search for yourself and your spirituality. And how are you feeling these days? Like, has motherhood fulfilled some of these things? Has it taken away? Has it been more challenge? I know, like from a logistical standpoint, obviously more challenging. But
Yeah, it's definitely
how's your heart
challenging.
feeling these days?
My heart feels full. My pockets feel empty. So I'm actually like, I just had this reflection. I was like, beginning of the holidays, you have to spend more to make more. It's like you got to plan for the
It's
expected
true.
expenses and orders and stuff. And so I'm at that point. I'm like, I just had to order all my string for the holidays. And I'm like, okay, I have faith. It's going to come back. So I think more of my stress comes from, just being in a mostly one income household right now. And I just was like, am I giving away too much energy? Like really reflecting, I'm getting so much fulfillment out of everything. It makes me happy when people are like excited to get featured and like, I made somebody's day just because like I showed them some love on some posts,
Yeah.
that's really fulfilling for me.
Well, don't be afraid
And
to post yourself on your pages. I hope you're
yeah,
doing that. I don't know that I've
I
even seen you
have
doing a lot.
I haven't done it a ton. I've only shared myself twice on each
Okay, so
page.
I think you
I've
are
done it
allowed.
twice.
You are allowed
I am,
to bring
yeah. And
yourself some love.
I think if things don't shift here, I'm gonna actually do a little bit of a fundraiser just to let the community know that like this it does cost to manage the pages to have the repost apps. And so like just to raise a fundraiser to so that we can continue doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um so I think I'm gonna plan that for like the next month here or something.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, because
but
even from like my outside perspective, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say, so I've been following the BIPOC macrame page for a while. And so occasionally that comes up on my feed. You know how nothing comes up anymore. It's like, you never know what Instagram's going to give you. But then it was like, I don't think I even followed your personal macrame until today. And I talked to you last week. I mean, so this is me being spacey, but also
It's okay.
I think it's a sign in a way that that you have to use all the resources in front of you to like do stories like show your face and mention your own website and pages and links on all of the pages. That's fair. You're doing the work. You're putting the work in. You have to get you have to bring some of it back to you. Like it's equitable that way, honestly. Because,
Totally. I'm just trying to, like I said, find that balance. And I'm happy with motherhood. I love being a mom. Just trying to find the balance of like giving and allowing myself to receive. Because I think on the one hand it's like, oh, people will want to give organically, but they won't know to give.
They won't know.
Ask,
I think that's the thing.
So
they won't know, and you can't give unless you are full too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a saying. I don't know it, and I always butcher sayings, so I'm not. But it's like you can't. It's if your cup is empty, you won't have anything to give.
Yeah. True. So, that's very true. So that's just where I'm at right now. But I have faith that I'm working on some really fun designs right now. I'm actually working on my first utility belt.
Oh, cool.
For a friend. And I should be done with that by next week. And another medium scale plant hanger similar to this, but different.
Nice.
So I'll get to make another design on that. I don't know. I just have a positive outlook. I trust things will line up as they need to. And it's good to have the reflection moments and be real with myself and say, okay, I've forgiven a lot. Let's reel it back in,
Yeah, for sure. And when are you going to try to move back to Georgia?
Probably in like a year or two.
Okay.
My boyfriend is on probation.
Oh, so you can't move. Is it contingent on that?
It's contingent on that. He just stopped smoking weed just now, so that whenever he wants to go, like say, hey, can I get off probation? Like if they need to drug test him, he'll be fine. But he just checks in over the phone right now.
Okay.
It was like a non-violent offense. It was super minimal, but he still has to go through all the processes. So at this point, it was nice because I got a really good job once I got pregnant, and we've just been saving and like, I don't know, just like growing as a family. And I would like to get everything just dialed in because I would like to have another baby here in the next year and a half. But I don't want to put that stress on me if I'm like not ready yet.
Yeah,
so
yeah. No, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's in the future for you, I'm sure, though. You're going to get it all figured out. And tell me if I can, like always message me. Feel free to message me if you need anything and if you,
Thank you.
A little boost here or whatever.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing.
That.
I think,
Thank you.
Highlighting like with your with the Black Fiber Artist page and the BIPOC Macrame page. And I mean, I think all of it is a beautiful service, something that it's great that you're doing it. And
thank you.
I think so we got to get some good energy coming back to you too. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Maybe I'll plan something here. A little fundraiser, but holiday, like shout out to say hey to everyone and share my work again.
Yeah, for sure.
I get so shy about it.
No, like, I know.
I can promote other people all day. I'm like, yeah, you go. My mom was a cheerleader all throughout college, and so I'm like, I inherited her like her cheerleader spirit. Like, I love cheering people on. But yeah, it's hard to cheer myself on sometimes.
I know. I feel the same way sometimes, but we got to get over it. You
Hey,
but I'm here too, and I need it. In order for me to keep doing this, like we gotta. We gotta bring some good stuff back to you. So anyway, Aurora, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah. One more time, if you can just let people know where to find you.
You can find me on Instagram at String and Hearts. My Etsy is String and Hearts Macra, Macra. I couldn't get the full macrame, but and my website is stringandhearts.com.
Okay, awesome. And are you taking commissions right now or anything? Or are you just working?
I won't be taking commissions until I can get these other 2 orders out of the way. Okay. So probably in the next week or 2, I'll be reopening for commissions.
Okay. By the way, you can tell people it's the 6-week wait.
Yeah.
Just so like you have the deposit, you could get a deposit in. Financially,
true.
This is the way to do it. So when I was doing all commission based work, it was like 50% deposit, and my lead time was 6 to 8 weeks. Because it was all really big pieces. Sometimes, it was a little stressful to have that list. Yeah. But also from a financial perspective, more secure.
Yeah, it gets you going. When I have an order, I'm like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
And if I don't have an order, I'm like, well, I have all this art. Should I make another reel to show the same piece again?
Yeah.
Just like, how do I purpose this art that I already have?
Right. From a financial point, you just also never know. It's like it secures the order a lot more if they have a 50% down. Then totally, it's like then at least you have the money to buy the string. And
I learned that the hard way. I can't do without a deposit.
Good.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the tips, and I'm really glad we've been able to connect.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Aurora. I'll be talking to you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay. Alrighty, bye.
Check the show notes of each episode to get the website and Instagram for each of the fiber artists I speak with. Be sure to give them a follow. And you can view video from this podcast on niromastudio.com/thefiberartistpodcast. If you enjoy the Fiber Artist Podcast, go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening.